We're back. Episode 107 here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Welcome, everybody. Concluding your week. I hope it's a safe one wherever you are here in Ontario. Things a little challenging here. I know for my good buddy Doug Maclean south of the border, it's as if nothing's going on. And I'm not sure which side is doing best. But we'll get to Doug Maclean in a minute. Certainly on Friday, things get a little crazy sometimes, so we'll see where this show ends up taking us. Joe and Jordan also standing by as well. But today's thumbnail revolves around the coaches, and who better to talk to than Doug Maclean? He's been there, he's done it, he's experienced it. For many teams, we are under 10 games, so yeah, maybe we're jumping the gun a little bit, but what's really going to change between now and the next 3 weeks? So can we talk about the best coaches out there? Who has done the best job? You know, this could be argued that this has been the most challenging coaching year in history. So whoever ends up winning this award can argue that under the circumstances of obviously a pandemic, one of a flat cap, one of a general manager shutting the door on a lot of things, a taxi squad. This will be maybe one of the most rewarding awards we've ever seen when it comes to a coach accepting this award. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let's bring in Doug Maclean here from Florida and talk about who's been the most impressive. And Mac, I think on the surface we can look at Quenneville, Brindamore, DeBoer, and probably slot those guys as much as anybody else behind them. And there's going to be a lot of honorable mentions here. And maybe someone outside of the three that I just mentioned could find a way to get on a real hot streak here and close this thing out and maybe win the award, i.e. a Barry Trotz, Dean Evanson in Minnesota. But right now, those three names kind of stick out for me.
Yeah, I think you're right on the names. The only other name I would add to that group is Bednar in Colorado.
Sure.
A guy that, came out of the East Coast League, came out of the American Hockey League, worked in the American Hockey League in Cleveland for Columbus. Chris McFarland hired him, assistant GM. Obviously he and Joe Sakic hired Bednar, but Chris McFarland was the guy that really went to bat for him to bring him to Colorado. It's been a good choice. He's done a real good job there. They got a good team, but so there's a half a dozen guys there.
Listen, before we start breaking down a few of them and what's going on with their respective teams, the comment that I just made, this could be the most challenging coaching year in NHL history. Do you agree?
Or it could be one of the easiest because you've got them totally confined. You don't have to worry about them being out in the bars. I used to walk the hallway, when we'd have a curfew and the guys wouldn't be out, but I'd see a dozen beer outside a guy's door, on the room service tray, So it is the toughest challenge maybe in coaching history, but also one that your players aren't out breaking curfew and having fun on the road and at home. They're pretty well confined. So that would be a coach's dream too, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm going to counterpoint that, and I'm going to one up you, and I'm going to talk about the mental challenge that you have to deal with on a daily basis with your players. And Robin Lehner in Vegas, if you're Pete DeBoer now, and you see the frustration of him, and we all saw the press conference, very outspoken, basically called the NHL liars, and felt like maybe protocols should be relaxed, or he felt like he was trapped in prison, Mac. This is a guy that went public, but as for coaches, there's got to be a lot of players maybe feeling the same way as Robin, but won't go public. But that's got to be the biggest challenge for a coach, is dealing with the player's mental state in this season.
Yeah, it is. It would be a challenge. I can't imagine. We talked about the bubble as one thing, but you knew that was, going to be a couple of month term if you went to the Stanley Cup final. And I guess then it would be worth it for a couple of teams. But this year, when you have to do it for an entire season where you're confined on the road in particular, going out to dinner, doing the things you want to do with your teammates, going out and having a few beer, I can't imagine how tough it is on the players and also on the coaching staffs. I mean, coaching staffs are a little different. They still like to go out and have dinner and do their thing on the road, but they're confined in their rooms doing video and so on a lot too. But I can't imagine how tough it is. I really, really can't. Players in particular and coaches next, because you've got to deal with the players. The Leonard thing, look,
what do you say to him? What do you say to him if you're Pete DeBoer now? Because you have to be respectful, Mac.
There's nothing you can say to him.
The time has changed so much. Our era, people would have said you're crazy for discussing anything outside of a hockey game.
Yeah,
and today the players, we know that there's a big stage for them to state however they feel, whether it's on or off the ice, political, whatever the case is. They have a platform now that we never had as a player. So as a coach, Mac, your first thought is keeping everybody focused and trying to avoid the distractions. But how does a coach go about a player like Robin right now?
Well, you're 100% right that, a player has the right to discuss these things. And mental health is such an important thing that has to be discussed and talked about. We all know that. The only concern you would have is he's a really important player on the Las Vegas Thunder or Golden Knights. Keep saying the IHL team, the Thunder. And you really need him 100% focused. And I applaud him for what he did. If in fact it's accurate, I don't know if it's accurate. The league certainly didn't think it was accurate. I can guarantee you that, what he said. But he has a right to say it, and I applaud him for it. And I know he's battled some major issues in his career. And you need him 100% focused on getting the job done at playoff time. But what do you say? What can you ever say to a guy that comes out and talks about his own mental health and the mental health of many, many people? An important topic.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think he can. I don't think Pete DeBoer or George McPhee or Kelly McCrimmon can go up to him and say, "Hey, listen, I hope you're okay with saying your piece, but let's stop it now. Let's just focus on the game."
You can't
see that. I can't see that happening.
No, and you know what? You have to be educated on all these things, because remember, we're in the dressing room, we're in the trenches, we're in there, and we're all focused on one thing, and that's winning. And you have to be aware of all these other situations, and you have to be aware that, you have to deal with lots of issues. There was lots of players I had that had mental health issues, lots of them. But it was not the same. But you still dealt with them in as positive a way as you could as a human. But today it's much different. And you know what? You just can't say anything except, hey, what can I do to help? I think that's what you can say. What can I do to help?
Yeah.
Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure Leonard and Gary Bettman or Bill Daly have had conversations. Robin came out and he said he commented on his frustration, saying that maybe it didn't come out in the way I would have wanted, but there's no question that there needs to be ongoing dialogue between Robin and maybe other players who decided not to speak out, and the league to move forward here, because it's going to be a tough 10 games to finish this regular season, and maybe even a tougher 2 months to win a Stanley Cup. And we still don't know definitively what that's going to look like for the players here. We don't know whether or not it'll just play out respectively the way it has during the regular season. They still may end up going somewhere. We're not 100% sure that the North Division in Canada is going to get played out in Canada until a conference final, especially with the way things are going here in Ontario.
Right. But just going back to Leonard for 1 minute, I can guarantee you the league, Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, and company don't like to be referred to as liars.
Yeah, that needs to be straightened out. And I hope it does.
That needs to be addressed in a non-public mental health, in a non-public, non-mental health. This is just they do not want to be referred to as liars. I guarantee you that. So, and I'm sure that's what Robin was addressing when he said, maybe,
So you are now more in favor of my side saying that this is one of the most challenging years in NHL history for a coach, opposed to this is the easiest season.
Because of the lack of partying on the road.
Correct. Correct.
How do you keep a straight face? How do you do it?
I'll never forget, Abe. I got to tell you, I said, okay, curfew's 11:30, and then I walked by the player's room, and there's a dozen Bud Lights sitting on a tray outside his room. I mean, skate up to him the next morning in the morning skate, he just reeked of booze. Hey, how was your night? How did you enjoy the movies?
Playing guilty. Worked for so many of us.
But you know what he said to me? He was a smart guy. You know what he said? I had the boys over for a beer.
That's right. We were bonding. How can you argue bonding?
Exactly.
Okay, Mac, let's get back on focus and who we deem now is the odds-on favorite for Coach of the Year. I got Rod Brind'Amour at the top, and I got everybody else underneath.
I have got Rob Brind'Amour as Coach of the Year. Too many times it goes to guys that have bad teams, and they have a good season or a fluky season, or something happens and they win Coach of the Year. I would take Brind'Amour because of what he's done and what he's built since taking over from Bill Peters. So it's been a 3-year process or so, and he's improved every year. They play hard, they compete, they play a good system. To me, he would be the number one coaching candidate if he walks from Carolina for most jobs in the league that are open.
We'll get into that a little later. But
Brind'Amour is my choice.
Brind'Amour's
overwhelmingly my choice for Coach of the Year.
Maybe up until about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of people suggesting Joel Quenneville was the odds-on favorite, and we liked Carolina. We believed Carolina could be a contending team, Mac, but we didn't necessarily feel that way about Florida Panthers at the beginning of the season. Does that give more credit to Joel Quenneville? Is all things being equal, shouldn't the Coach of the Year come from a team that was less expected to win? Therefore, doesn't Joel bump up a little bit here?
That's always how it's been. And, that's why so many Coach of the Years get fired very shortly after they win the award, because it's sometimes a fluke situation. Not all the time, but sometimes it is.
So
I think Joel Quenneville,
Florida's a fluke. You think Florida's just
no? I think it's a situation where they have a good base there, and they had some real holes with their team in past years. I think you've seen a new general manager come in, and along with Rick Dudley, a veteran hockey guy, and they've plugged some holes. some simple things like a Gudis, a Nudavari, some Duclair, some relatively no-name, the kid they signed out of Tampa Bay, some relatively no-name guys that have come in and now they're playing really well. So I think it's a combination of Joel doing a real good job, and deservedly so, in my opinion, would be my number 2 choice for the coach of the year. Barkov has been absolutely a star for him with his, 20th last night. So to me, it's not a knock on Joel Quenneville. I just think Brind'Amour has done a better job, and Joel could very well be right there as a 1 and a 1A for me.
Nedeljkovic with a big save to close out last night's win. The other thing is Brind'Amour owns the Florida Panthers. He owns Joel. It's hard for Joel to win this trophy when he's can't beat the coach that you're up against here. And for whatever reason, Carolina owns the Florida Panthers this season, 6-1.
I remember when I was nominated for Coach of the Year, and I went to the awards ceremony, and it was, we had a good regular season, and finished with 95 points, which was the third year of the Panthers franchise, and we got in the playoffs. So that was a huge thing. So then we have this amazing run where we go to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I go to the Coach of the Year ceremony, and I forget who the third candidate was, but it was Scotty Bowman and myself, and I'm not sure who the third guy was for Coach of the Year.
God, you're just crushing him. He's watching the show right now. He
I know.
Subscribes to the Real Kyper at Noon show.
Was it Paul Maurice? Would it be Paul Maurice maybe? I don't know.
Get our crack research team on that.
Yeah, Coach of the Year, 1995-96 season. Who was the 3 nominees for Coach of the Year? So anyway, I'm sitting there.
Get our chat on that too.
Of course, we go to the Stanley Cup Finals. And Detroit got beat out in the third round. We go to the finals, and Scotty Bowman wins Coach of the Year. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, how cool is it that I'm runner-up to Scotty Bowman?
Or you sat there and said, this shouldn't be decided until after the Stanley Cup.
Oh, exactly. That's what I said to Jill, but I didn't say that in public. I said it to Jill that it's a goddamn joke.
It's
that
a joke
is going on. But to the media, I said what an honor it was to be runner-up to Scotty Bowman.
So I think
if I'm not mistaken, I think Scotty said in his acceptance speech, I really appreciate this, but I think somebody else may have deserved it a little more than me. Now, I don't know if he was talking about me. Maybe he was. But I did win Hockey News Coach of the Year. I see the plaque right here.
Oh, no, we've seen it many times. It's just
I was in a
very
closet.
Strategically put back there.
It was in a closet, and when I did this John Shannon studio that he always rips me about, I put that picture in there.
Well, you see his Emmy Award, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Every time he does it.
So what I'm saying is Coach of the Year is, it's such an important position. Do they win games for teams? No, but they got to make sure they don't lose games for teams. And that's what you always look at with coaches. Do they lose games? They don't always win games, but they don't cause their team to lose games.
Well, before we dive into maybe other teams, I just want to flesh out this Brind'Amour. Mac, it's been noted, and it's very public, that this guy needs a new contract in Carolina. We know the owner, Tom Dundon, does not run a hockey team in the traditional, conventional way as other owners in the past. He wants to bring in the same philosophy. Okay, what are you doing? Is that your phone?
Which one? Which one of you was it?
I was just checking the stock market. Go ahead. Because
it's Friday, and you're not paying attention.
I was nodding off when you started going on about Tom Dundon. I started to nod off. So I thought, well, I'll just check to see where the market is today.
This guy throws around money like manhole covers.
That's why I was checking the market. Why it tweaked me to check the market.
How is this guy going to keep Rod Brind'Amour in Carolina long term and stick to his philosophy that you don't have to pay top dollar?
That is going to be the ultimate challenge, and he has to make an evaluation as a corporate guy and a guy that's been successful in his businesses, in the variety of businesses he's been in. Sometimes you have to realize that there's very, very key people, much like Tim Cook and Apple. They probably realize he's a pretty smart guy. I know he's a friend of yours, but he's a pretty smart guy. Sometimes you have to step back and say, how valuable is this guy to our coaching staff? How valuable is this guy to our organization? And how responsible is he for where we are? And maybe if that's the case, in your wallet and make sure you don't lose a top guy. Because I guarantee you, if he's available, he will get the Seattle Kraken job.
I think it's a foregone conclusion that he'll be the next coach of Seattle if Carolina doesn't step up.
But I think it wouldn't surprise me that he wants to stay in Carolina. That wouldn't surprise me. He's been there a long time.
Yeah.
It's a great area to live, family, all the things that go with that. I would think his preference is to get a deal done in Carolina. That's my own opinion.
The word is,
I don't know that.
The feeling is that up until this point, he's lowballed him. And
but
does it get to a point where you start to take it really personally and then form decisions in your head now? Is that possible?
Well, coaches have gotten, you got to be careful on this league average of coaches' salaries, because you've got a couple of guys that have skewed it way out of whack. Because Quenneville's getting $6 million and Babcock was getting $6 million, and I look at a couple of guys that have got $4 million, and Vigneault, who's done, in my opinion, a terrible job in Philadelphia. And you got McClellan in LA. I don't know if he's done a good job. I don't pay any attention to them this year. I mean, it's skewed way out of whack. So to say that I want the league average as my coaching salary, you got to look at what the other 20 guys are making. Like John Cooper makes $3 million a year. Quenneville makes $6 million, and McCullen probably makes $4 million. Vigneault makes $4 million, and Cooper's $3 million. And everybody thinks it, and that's the league average, $2.9 million. So everybody thinks they should get paid $5 million. Well, sorry, money's tight right now.
So Babcock gets full credit for pulling all these salaries up. Did his early firing in Toronto pull it back down?
I would think that some of these guys that have picked up the $3-4 million that I just mentioned in Vigneault and McClellan, I would think they've pulled it down as much as, like, why are you paying Vigneault $4 million? Why are you paying Julian $4 million in Montreal?
Well, you were hoping that they were going to get them to the promised land.
Yeah,
That's why.
You're hoping. Well, you know what Hope did?
What would you have gotten paid in 95?
I got the job with Florida. I thought, oh man, I just hit a home run. I got $275 and a 3-year deal. And we went to the Stanley Cup Finals, and Mr. Huizinga called me in with Brian Murray and said he was moving me to $455 and $550 on a brand new 3-year deal.
No way. You didn't even ask for it.
I didn't ask for it, and he gave me 50,000 shares in Panther Holdings, which ended up being, at one point, it was worth $1.2 million or $1.3 million at that time. And a $50,000 bonus. He gave me an automatic $50,000 bonus, which I used to pay off the mortgage on my cottage. So I just said, whoa, this is pretty nice. Out of the blue, Brian Murray and he did that. So it was. And I told you what happened. Poor Clark. I was making $475 the next year. They had a big story in the Miami Herald or the Fort Lauderdale Sun Sentinel, and they had Jimmy Johnson's salary at $2 million, Jimmy Leland's salary coaching the Marlins at 1.6 and Pat Riley's salary with the Heat at $2 million, and they had me at 475. And Clark came home from school. He was in like grade 5, and the kids were teasing him about how poorly paid his old man was. And Clark was embarrassed that I was getting paid so poorly. So,
I got to think though, you've embarrassed him in other ways. He probably was used to it.
Yeah, he was. He was. Anyway.
So, and how long after that were you fired?
Oh, a year and a half after that.
I think you did great. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
Peter DeBoer, second team to clinch a playoff spot the other night. I look at Vegas, Mac, and they're a good team, but Peter DeBoer doesn't have. He's got one of the most complete defensemen in Pietrangelo, but he doesn't have a McDavid. He doesn't have a McKinnon. He doesn't have a Matthews, Draisaitl. You get the point here. He's done a pretty good job with it, and also a two-headed monster with two goalies that expect to be number one goalies here.
Yeah, he has. Look, Vegas have been such a unique situation, and as a former expansion GM, it's really frustrating to watch how good they've been because of what other expansion GMs had to go through. So I find it really kind of hard to heap praise on them because they had such an unbelievable situation. They did a hell of a job. Gerard Gallant did a hell of a job there. Peter DeBoer has come in and has done a good job with a good team. He deserves credit. I'm a little biased there because I'm a Gerard Gallant fan, which everybody knows. But that happens. But Peter, you can't say, I don't know how great a coach he is technically. They think he's a great technical coach, but I know one thing, he manages the dressing room well, and he's done a good job with a good team. And that's why he probably won't win it, because he's done a good job with a good team, a very good team. And that's why Bednar won't win it, because he's done a very good job with a very good team.
That's expected to win.
That's expected to win. That's why I don't think Brind'Amour and I don't think Bednar win it because of that, which is wrong.
No, not Brind'Amour. You're talking about DeBoer. Yeah,
the Bednar and DeBoer. They don't win it because I think that's why I think it's Quenneville or Brind'Amour, because the expectations weren't there. We thought Carolina were going to be good. I didn't think they're going to be this good.
Colorado with a big win over St. Louis 4-2 last night. Like I said, the second team to clinch a playoff spot. McKinnon,
by the way,
3 assists. By the way, what?
I don't want to interrupt you, but I did. I was thinking last night watching that game, they signed Falk and they let Pietrangelo leave.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Falk and I'm thinking that may come down as something they will regret, because there's
some nights he's really good, Falk.
And there's a lot of nights he's really, really average. And Pietrangelo is not the big guy you notice every night, but he's such a steady and influence. Yes, and I don't think he wanted to leave St. Louis. I really don't. And I don't know that may not come back to haunt.
Yeah.
That decision may not come back to haunt St. Louis.
There's
you agree with me or not?
Yeah, well, there's some nights it's just you don't know what to expect out of St. Louis, and you look at that lineup and there's still plenty reasons to think that they can compete.
Yeah, big time.
Stanley Cup final. But then they leave you leaving a lot more. And
I think
Pietrangelo, a healthy Parayko would go a long way, Mac, but I don't know if he'll ever come back to find his game here, at least this season.
And I think Pietrangelo is a major loss.
Well, we mentioned Bednar. He's now the second winningest coach in franchise history. He passed Bob Hartley. He's still kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but you don't necessarily think about Bednar that way. But he only trails your good buddy Michel Bergeron.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's got to manage, one of the stars in the game in McKinnon. And we all know McKinnon's a great hockey player, but, there's some nights this guy get a little moody.
I know.
That's a challenge. But like you said, this is a team that's supposed to win, Mac.
Yeah.
And lots of pressure on both, I think, DeBoer and Bednar to come out of this division. All right. Honorable mentions, Mac. I've got Barry Trotz again. I've got Dean Evason and Sullivan in Pittsburgh, which is a team that I thought would be fighting for their lives to make the playoffs, but they're challenging to win the division.
Dean Evason really jumps out at me as a guy that's come in. Look, he was a snotty-nosed guy when he played. I don't know how many games he played, but he had played a couple hundred games. But did you play with Dean Evason in Hartford?
No, I missed him.
But he was a snotty-nosed, competitive son of a gun.
Nose. I'm sure he appreciates that now.
Superstar junior, but I'll tell you what, he goes in, he takes over in there, and I'll tell you what, he has shown me that he's got some big ones. I mean, who sits Zach Parise? Who helps straighten out Suter? Who gets Suter to buy in to the program?
And the minutes.
And I'll tell you what, they're one of the surprise teams. We had Minnesota right there because it's such a funny, that some teams are really starting to rebuild. So we knew Minnie would be better. I didn't have them as good. I didn't have them this good. Billy Guerin has done a good job. So I've got to give Dean Evason big time credit for some of the moves he's made and getting this team to actually play. Finally, they don't look like Jacques Lemaire's team anymore. Now they play with some flair. Kaprizov, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, that works.
The Thrill has sort of helped change the dynamic of this team, and they play a opening. They are dying to play Vegas in the first round, and Vegas is not dying to play them in the first round. So that will be fun to see. But I think Dean Evason's done a hell of a job. I really do.
All right, we got.
By the way, I just got a note from a guy, a friend of yours. I've been corresponding a little bit on Twitter with Mark Curtin, who was a former NHL player and who played. And we were going back and forth the other night because when I was coaching University of New Brunswick, Mark Curtin was playing for the Fredericton Express, and he mentioned to me that, and this is on the coaching tag, he said the Fredericton Express, I think it was 85, 86. Mark Crawford, Claude Julien, and grumpy Andre Savard were three guys that came off that Fredericton Express team that became big name NHL coaches. Pretty interesting. An American League team. So Mark Curtin, we know, is battling ALS.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know Mark. I knew of him, and he told me I met him in a bar one night in Fredericton at the Cosmo, and I said, "You must have had the wrong guy, Mark. I was never in the Cosmo."
Well, we wish Mark all the best, and he's in a big battle right now with Lou Gehrig's disease. And
yes, we do wish him
great NHL alumni. I've known Mark for many years here in the Toronto area, and we wish him nothing but the best. Great guy.
And he said to make sure I said hello to you. So I just said hello. I just said hello.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic guy. All right. So Mac, we've exhausted it. I think we're all believe that in the last 10 games, it's Rod Brendamore's award to lose. I don't see it. They're pumping on all cylinders right now, that Carolina team, and but we're in for a great finish here. But what a team in the division!
What a division it's going to be, though, when you look at how great the Panthers are playing, and they could. I mean, who's going to win this division? How critical is it to win this division and not have to play head to head with, Tampa versus Florida or whoever in that first round? But that's why we're going to love the first rounds this year in so many divisions. It's going to be unbelievable.
So as we watch the final stretch here in each division, are we reminded last night when we watched Toronto and Winnipeg why this division is considered the weakest among the three of them because the inconsistencies that we've seen in the last little while out of a lot of clubs here suggest that whoever comes out of this division will be a huge underdog in the conference final.
Well, you know what? You sit down to watch that game last night, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to see an unbelievable Winnipeg-Toronto game here. You got Foligno dressing in his first game, and the excitement around that, and the team. How is he going to be battling for first place? And all of a sudden, Hellebuck, who we rave about all the time on this show, who is a hell of a goalie, but he can have the odd off night we've seen, and he was god awful last night, and it ruined it was over. It was over. They battled back, but it was essentially over.
It didn't necessarily look great for Jack Campbell either. I think what did we have? 3 goals on 4 shots in this game, but Jack battled back hard.
Yeah, he did. Made a couple of big saves. So what I'm saying is you see it night to night, like you see Ottawa go in and beat Vancouver after beating the Leafs 2 straight, and you got, Edmonton blows it. And Montreal goes in and wins. And the next night, Montreal can't get out of their own way. It's just the inconsistencies. And you said it, the inconsistencies in the division are unbelievable. Now you got Calgary. They can't practice. They get canceled their practice today. Obviously it would be a COVID concern. I can't believe Daryl would give them the day off, knowing Daryl. So it would have to be.
Did you buy into like a lot of the media around Toronto that this was the greatest Leaf debut in Leaf history out of Nick Foligno?
I thought
it was okay, Mac, but there's nothing there. He's just warming up here. He said it. He didn't feel he didn't feel great, but he was okay.
He was
great.
I thought after 2 periods, I was disappointed in his game. Okay, that's what I thought. But and then as the game ended, I thought, you know what? That's why you love Nick Foligno. I know they loved him in Columbus. Torts loved him. My great friend Jeff Rimmer loved him because he's consummate team. And I watched what he did on the big play. They tried to give him an assist earlier, but I saw what he did, the unselfish play he made with Marner. To me, he's a team builder. And I like that a lot. I shut the TV, I went to a different game after that, and I thought, you know what? That was a great move, number one, a great effort play for a guy that was quarantining and all the other things, the pressure of the first game in Toronto. I really liked the play he did, giving the puck to Marner. I really did.
I think he smoked Morrissey as well in the corner, and he's got that ability to do that.
Yeah.
And that is the playoff type of hockey. So it'll be challenging here if they can keep everybody healthy on who's in and who's out. Couple of head hits last night. The first one was Galchenyuk on Lowry, and you didn't think too much of it, Mac. It was almost like a brush, but that Adam Lowry does not disappear unless it was significant. And to lose a guy like that in the hockey game for Winnipeg was significant. So that and Joe Thornton's hit on Matthew Perreault. I thought the Thornton hit was worse than the one on Galchenyuk. I thought for sure there'd be at least a hearing, but I haven't seen anything yet. Maybe it's passed. Maybe they looked at it and they didn't like it. But
I'll tell you what.
During the show,
Thornton was
fined. Yeah,
he was fined. Okay, so
who was
Galchenyuk? They didn't think anything of it, and Thornton was fined on the hit on Matthew Perreault.
Well, and I agree with it. But here's the issue: is they could have had a big impact in this hockey game. Lowry's going to go head to head with Matthews' line. and he's out of the game, and he was vicious about it. He was upset. You knew he was out of the game because of the way he was talking to the referee. He knew he was done. And Perreault, they lost him. So two important guys.
I think Perreault came back. If I'm not mistaken, I think he did come back.
Did he come back later?
I think so, yeah.
And obviously he must have played really well. I never noticed he come back.
Well, that's another factor too.
Yeah.
And I get sometimes the fans' frustration on what's a head hit, what isn't, what's suspendable, what isn't. At the end of the day, we're not paid to make those decisions. I thought Thornton was going to get a game for sure, but a fine is what it is. The other factor here is, Perreault does not have a great reputation when it comes to taking those type of hits.
Right,
they don't tend to give Matthew Perreault the benefit of the doubt.
No.
Maybe that had something to play with Thornton avoiding a suspension.
Yeah. And the other question that you always, as a coach, you're saying, okay, so it's not a suspension for Galchenyuk. It's because Lowry was down low. I get that, but was that a penalty?
I don't know. Again, he got hit in the head.
I mean,
he left the game.
I see a lot of games where you get a 5-minute major, and then after you look at it, oh no, it's not a 5-minute major. I made a mistake. They didn't jump the gun to make those 2 5-minute majors last night.
Yeah. Regardless of suspensions or no suspensions, I think it's a good sign for the Leafs that they were on the giving end opposed to the receiving end here, which isn't necessarily things that we've seen in the past. So maybe there is some sandpaper, because from a physical point of view, we'd still probably give Winnipeg the edge. Would you not? In terms of playing heavy, but last night, I think the Leafs held their own.
Look, whether we like it or not, the Leafs have a reputation around the league of being pretty boys. And I thought last night that the pretty boys took a big step. And I was pleased, because when you, and the pretty boys isn't coming from me. That's what lots of people say about, the Leafs. And it's lots of players that say it. And there are lots of coaches that say it. Not publicly, but they say it.
But you just did.
And yeah, but I mean, but I thought the Leafs, we know what it's going to be like in the playoffs. We know how tough it's going to be on them. And I thought they took a big step last night in that area. And I thought that was good. And it's interesting that it was led by Galchenyuk, that I wouldn't have thought. Thornton, who's as tough as they come, we know that. And also Foligno, and also some other guys. I thought it was important. I really did. And I'll tell you who, you said it, the goaltender battled. He wasn't on his game, but he battled hard. And Sean, Simmer mentioned it in the broadcast. He's just maybe a little off here, but he battled really hard, Jack. He battled hard at the end to salvage that win. So I thought there was some real positives for the Leafs.
Did you catch Jack Campbell's post-game comments about learning a lesson last week about not being hard on himself?
Did he thank you publicly for it?
What's that?
Did he thank you publicly for it? Because you're the first one that brought it up, but I saw it was repeated many times after. But
I think he's heading in the right direction, Mac. I'm just not sure in a week if you can change the last 10 years or 11 years of a fixed mindset. And hopefully, maybe it's not a fixed mindset. Maybe it's a growth mindset.
Well, it's also that he's such a team guy that he wants to be the guy to take the blame. You respect that in guys, but you got to make sure it doesn't affect your game. A really important thing for me is, when do they get Freddie Anderson off the rollerblades and onto ice skates? As Americans like to say, ice skates.
The rollerblading thing has taken this to another level, has it not? Like, I'm thinking, whatever you're dealing with, from the tip of your head to your the bottom of your feet. Whatever the case is, I wouldn't recommend rollerblading to really flirt with a setback, whatever you're dealing with. So, what is it?
I thought of them this morning. I was out for my early morning jog, and this girl rollerblades by me in a thong. And I'm thinking, it hit me. For some reason, I thought of Freddie Anderson. I don't know why.
So we all got to come to the conclusion, Mac, that he's fine.
Yeah, I think so.
But you cannot get him in without a long-term injury to Campbell, Riddick, somebody.
Bogosian's won't help.
So
not enough money.
So now Leaf fans are just left to the conclusion that Freddie's just buying time until there's no cap in the playoffs.
Yep, probably.
Are you comfortable with taking a chance that you may need to go to Frederik Andersen?
I'm not. I wouldn't be comfortable without him playing some games. And that's the dilemma. They've got 3 goaltenders. They've got to hope in what do they got? 9-10 games left?
10, I think.
They got 10 games left to make sure their goaltenders are ready for the playoffs. And this is always a strategy with a coach and a GM when you head down the stretch in the last 10, 12 games is who's going to play what games so that there's rest, that there's technically sound work, and it's always a strategy. And now you've got 3 guys that you've got to hope are somewhat ready to play in the playoff time because it's going to be an intense first round. And you know what it's like for goalies in the first round. They are pushed around. They are jostled. It's not like the regular season, Nick, when you're around that paint. It's a whole different ball game. So you got to be technically ready and mentally ready for it. So that's the challenge.
I would probably have thought that the best team out there that could give Toronto a run to come out of this North Division was Winnipeg. I'm now leaning towards the Oilers.
I'm telling you something.
But, Hellebuck is the difference maker in how he feels and how he goes into the first round. But Hellebuck would be the only reason after watching last night that you would believe that Winnipeg could beat Toronto.
Okay. And remember, it was said here, Montreal will not be easy in the first round. Montreal will not be easy in the first round. Whoever they play. Well, Edmonton will not be easy in the first round because of McDavid and Draisaitl and Nurse and Smitty in goal. He'll battle his ass off. And Tippett's a good coach. I mean, you're right. And I mean, nobody is going to be the first round in the North, whether it's a lousy division or not. David Amber, he just poor David Amber had his birthday yesterday, but this would crush him when I say the North Division isn't that good. It would crush him. But anyway, Dave, I'm sorry I have to say it. But the first round is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be a war. And don't think Montreal won't be tough.
I think
before this is over.
I think Montreal would just go back and watch the way the Columbus Blue Jackets beat the Leafs last year and go,
yeah, bring it on.
Carey Price or Allen to do what Verzlikins and Korpisalo did last year and then shut them down.
And bring it in to the trenches. Bring it into the trenches.
I don't know if the Matthews and the Marners can get shut down 2 playoffs in a row. Again, watching them last night, every time they crossed over the blue line, Mac, you felt like something special might happen. And Kyle Connor is a great goal scorer and a great shooter. And I think Scheifele's a great centerman. But you don't get the same feeling when they cross the blue line on what could potentially happen than you do with Matthews and Marner. And that is a huge edge for Toronto.
I'm going to tell you something. The preparation that will have to go into coaching against Matthews and Marner is going to be unbelievable. I went into a coaching situation, how to coach against Yager and Lemieux in one series, Lindros and Leclerc in another series. And I'm telling you what, the players, it is going to, the attention to detail, the players, when the coach starts talking about how we're going to play against Austin Matthews and Marner, you will see amazing focus. And that's when coaching in the playoffs becomes such an important thing. So when Dave Tippett or Ducharme or Paul Maurice start to talk about how we're going to play against Matthews and Marner, it is going to be interesting. And Matthews and Marner, you're 100% right. They are so good, and they deserve so much credit. I love watching them play. And Foligno's there now. Hyman hopefully will be at ready.
Yeah.
They cannot afford, this franchise cannot lose in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot lose in the trenches this year. They got to come out of the battles positive, and they did last night.
All right, one coach we didn't mention is Travis Green, who made a great recovery off his battle with COVID and huge efforts against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They get shut out by Ottawa last night. Vancouver's going to have to just find ways to get positive vibes to end this thing. It doesn't appear like, Mac, they're going to get in there. Elias Pettersson, I'm told, is going to shut it down the rest of the season. It doesn't appear like he's going to be able to get back, battling, I think, a wrist injury. And it's just has not progressed, I think, where they're comfortable. But, they're going to, there's still a bright future there for many of them. And I think the character showed tremendously since they returned to play. What else strikes your fancy, Mac? Verana, 4 goals in Detroit.
We have something about Detroit, actually. We have a little bit of an injury.
Okay, let me just say that Verana now's got to go toe-to-toe with Mantha, who's been able to put the puck in the net, Mac. All right, go ahead, Jordan. What do you got for us?
Dylan Larkin will miss the remainder of the season. He will be reevaluated in 2 weeks, but that pretty much cuts it for them.
Well, again, like Pettersson in Vancouver, Mac, you got these young star players. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Shut them down.
By the way, big news. Our good friend Ty Domi, who grabbed you by the throat and hauled you right over the desk one night in front of me. Remember the Beast? He is a strong guy. Anyway,
that's par for the course.
We know that he was in Tampa Bay last night, taking in the game between the Columbus Blue Jackets and Tampa Bay, and his guest. I don't know who was Tom Brady Ty's guest, or was Ty Tom Brady's guest?
I would imagine.
Would you guess?
Well, if it's a hockey game, Mac, who do you think invited who to a hockey game? Come on.
Well, Ty's not a name dropper. We know that. He's not a guy that, he likes to hang with us. We'd run into him. He'd always great.
He's dropped us like a hot potato. I can't blame him, man. Me or Tom Brady. Figure it out.
Anyway, even Tortorella didn't have the balls to sit Max out last night with Tom Brady watching the game.
Tom Brady got Max back in the lineup.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Anyway, it comes back to the same thing. Max Domi has struggled at times, but he has to sit him out 2 games instead of just one game. Like, who does that?
I know. Come on. We've beaten this up.
Kekalainen feels bad enough about this trade for Anderson for Domi. He doesn't need his coach sitting out Domi for 2 in a row. Sit him out 1. I'm fine with that. But he doesn't have to do it 2.
I think the Columbus Blue Jackets, are 0-7-1. I don't know if they've won 2 games, Mac, in the last month.
Yeah.
Merzlikins comes out and says, this is getting embarrassing. Not quite Jack Campbell, where he called himself embarrassing, but he said, this is getting embarrassing. It's painful sitting in the locker room. And I'm reading this and listen and trying to absorb it. And when this stuff goes public, Mac, can you imagine what it's really like for these guys? And I go back to Ryan O'Reilly as a Buffalo Sabre, and he did the same thing. Hated coming to the rink, not even sure I like hockey anymore. Like, this is bad. When players speak of this, this is really, you know, your organization's at a critical point. Ownership, management, coaching, like you got to take it personally when your players speak like this publicly.
Big time. And then the one thing I didn't like, he said, I don't want to be like Buffalo. I'm thinking, you might be worse than Buffalo right now, buddy. You know, so look, it's not good. It's devastating for a management team to hear that talk. It's devastating. It's your fan base. You don't want your fan base hearing it. You don't want your management team hearing it. You don't want your owner hearing it. It's not good. It's not good. And you know what? You know how the only way to fix it? The only way to fix it is on July 1st, they better get Seth Jones in a room with guards outside and not let him out till he's signed.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the start. And then on free agent day, the same day, you're going to have to overpay to get some people to go there.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You've got to do it because you've got to change the perception, which in my opinion is an unfair perception because I happen to like Columbus, Ohio.
Now,
as a city. I love it as a city.
Can you remove the guards from the door for 1 second so Yarmo can go in there and tell Seth Jones exactly what that will make him sign long term?
Well, first before the guards come in, you let Tortorella out the door. You don't let him in there with they put the guards there after Tortorella's out of the room.
Well, to be out of the room, Mac, means that you're out of the organization. They have no choice at this point but to thank John Tortorella for his years of service, but we're moving in another direction. That is a foregone conclusion right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But forgetting Torts, it's all for me, Seth Jones. I mean, it's out there that Werenski wants to go to Detroit. I mean, it's, you know, this has got to come to a stop. And and I don't know what Seth Jones wants to do. I think I'm hoping they can get him signed, and they may have to pay him more than what he deserves based on the year he's had, but they got to change this perception. And that's where it's going to start, to try to get that deal done July 1st. I would be trying right now to get it done.
Well, they need, if you can give your fans something to look forward to.
That's what I mean.
That would be the number one thing.
Big time. Big time. Anyway.
All right. One of our thumbnails yesterday, Mac.
The other thing they probably have to do next is get Jeff Rimmer on a long-term deal.
Well, maybe you can let him know if anything changes. He's more than welcome to come on the show.
Because with the way my golf game has evolved, I don't want him down here playing golf with me because he's not good enough to play with me now.
Oh my! You turned yourself into a golf snob.
What's the prediction on Seth Jones here? Is he in Columbus next year, guys?
Well, he's got one more year on his deal, so this is about extending the contract.
Yeah. He's in Columbus next year.
You know, if you don't feel like it's heading in that direction, you better start making some phone calls right now and trying to get whatever you can back for him. Because
you can imagine if they don't get him signed, and he said, "No, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till next summer and see where it goes." Oh, that's their worst nightmare.
You cannot take that chance anymore. You got burned by others who've walked out the door and brought you no return, and you are paying the price to a certain extent because of that. Can't happen again.
Yeah, I'm with you too, Mac. Columbus isn't that bad. Columbus is a fine city. You know,
there's a
lot worse places to be. So
you want to believe it. So
okay,
anyway,
Mac, the other day we talked about the defensive matchup between Washington and the Islanders. And what do they do for us, Mac? They shut
made
the
us
door.
Look good.
Both blue lines shut the door last night, and it was Samsonov that stood brightest in the shootout. A 1-0 win. But Samsonov was fantastic in that first period.
But the defenses on both teams, the defense is good on both teams, as we talked about last show. But the defensive play of both teams is. I talked to somebody today, really interesting. I talked to a hockey guy this morning, and I said, who do you think is the best team in the NHL today? You know what he told me? Washington Capitals.
Really?
That's what he said, and it sort of caught me off guard. And he watches 10 games a night or whatever there is on. Washington Capitals.
The other, besides a low-scoring event, Ovechkin leaving the game, Mac, and someone had whispered to me last night that he's been battling something all season long.
Really, I did not know that.
I'm watching, and I'm again with 10 games and under to go for a lot of teams. Wouldn't you start thinking about maybe shutting this guy down?
I know if I was thinking about playing him in the first round, I'd like to find out what it is bothering him.
Well, I think
they got to shut him down.
Idea.
They got to shut him down.
Well, we've seen we saw Tampa Bay do that on Stamp, and we hope he can come back.
Yeah.
There's a few people saying that it is not related to his surgery and his injury last year. So that's just speculation at this point. Nothing definitive that I've heard anyways, but that's what you do with these guys at this point, Mac, right? You shut them down if they can't go.
You know what? We blew it. We should have got Tom and Ty to find out that when they're in the press up near the press box last night. Find out what the hell's going on with Steven.
What does Tom have that we don't? That Ty wouldn't.
Giselle.
With him instead of me.
Giselle for one thing. Oh no, Jill! I'm not. That's not what I meant, Jill. That's not what I meant.
Don't get yourself in trouble, man.
It's gonna be a long weekend. Man.
It's gonna be a bad weekend.
All right, so
Jill's in Cincinnati.
What else we got going, Jordan? What are we gonna do next week? We're gonna go over a few more awards next week. What do you got planned for us?
So next week, as we near towards the postseason, it's kind of crazy. We're going to go through our predictions from earlier on in the season, talk about some awards, maybe you guys could help me put some futures bets in and get some stuff going. Maybe like 2 months ago, I bet Patrick Kane, right, to win the MVP. So I'm hoping that one sticks. We'll go through that, and then maybe we'll talk about some of the teams that have been more or less mathematically eliminated and just get our way towards the postseason, having a fun time.
Mac, for a guy that should be on the back half of his career in Brad Marchand.
I thought you were talking about me.
No. This guy's playing the best hockey I've ever seen out of him, ever.
I'll never forget watching this kid play midget hockey. And he was I believe he was a third-round pick of the Moncton Wildcats in the Quebec Major Junior League. Third-round pick. And little guy buzzing around out there with unbelievable skill in midget. And look at the career he's had. Oh, man, he's a good player. He's such a good player.
Yeah. And that, and Boston's, they look like they're kind of getting ready to prove to everybody that they can still win cups.
Yep, they're playing. I mean, Taylor Hall has been a nice piece to help Krejci get him going, and I mean, their blue line, if they got to get Carlo back and get him going, get him back to where he was, that would be a real plus. So yeah, Tuukka Rask is a hell of a goalie too. He's a hell of a goalie.
Well, there's a lot of speculation on what his intentions are.
And what about the kid? And what about the kid playing goal for them right now that's come in at a University of Maine, 22-year-old? Swayman has been unbelievable.
Yeah, Swayman
is unbelievable how good he's been.
The heir apparent, Mac.
I know. I mean, he at 22 years of age. I believe he's 22. Anyway, I'm heading to the beach. It's Friday afternoon.
It's Friday afternoon.
Jill's up in Cincinnati at a horse show.
You shouldn't
I'm going
be.
to the beach.
Let me steal you for 1 second first. I saw on Twitter, actually, that in May something big's happened with HamptonsPEI.com. I have it on screen for the fine fellows now.
I was about to mention that. You've got to go sell properties in PEI. I retweeted your pitch out there in social media. I said to get any deal closed, you got to throw in a case of Little Buddha.
Hey,
look, I will throw in a case of Little Buddha if I can get it over the bridge, if they'll let me take it in over the bridge. But listen, you got to check out HamptonsPEI.com. It's a new resort, new development there. We built 2 spec homes. They're both going on the market May 1st. They're beautiful. One's an ocean front, one's an ocean view, but they're beautiful homes. So check out HamptonsPEI.com. I knew you would like the ring because you're a Hamptons guy.
Yep. I got got them on screen for everybody. These views are magnificent. So the water view, the waterfront, it's beautiful.
Where's the golf course going?
15 minutes from Charlottetown, 15 to 18 minutes from Charlottetown, 5 minutes from Victoria by the Sea with great restaurants. Golf courses with anywhere from, I would say, 15 minutes to 30 minutes to the greatest golf courses. I want the golf course
right there. Right there.
Well, we do have there's a lot of acreage there, but we're going to use it to get shale for our road versus making it into a golf course.
Sounds smart.
Thanks,
well,
guys.
Glad we can help you here on the Real Kyper at Noon show, make you more money, because that's what it's really all about.
About surviving.
Get you a bigger RV.
No, I don't want. That's one thing I don't want is a bigger RV.
Go drive your RV. Go drive your convertible, your Porsche. Go to the beach. Well earned today, Friday, big weekend. Doug Maclean, everybody.
The girl with the thong. Keep us in the loop.
Yeah, keep us in the loop.
That's Doug a bad Maclean. Line. That was a bad line.
Doug Maclean from sunny Florida. All right, Joe and Jordan, thank you very much, guys. It was a good week. I think we were hanging in there. We're grinding, getting towards that finish line and starting up a Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Wherever you are, you're staying healthy, and we continue to get through this together. I'm Nick Kypreos for Joe and Jordan, Doug Maclean down in sunny Florida. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're watching for the first time. Hit that like button, and we'll see you on Monday.